Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Asher Marketing Podcast. This podcast is hosted by Asher Agency, a full-service partner to clients nationwide. Asher's services include media planning, creative, digital and social, website development, public relations, printing and fulfillment, and more. Anything you need to connect with your prospects and tell your story. To learn more, visit asheragency.com or contact us at hello@asheragency.com. My guest is Eileen Alberding. Eileen, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for coming back to see us again.
Yes, thanks for inviting me.
So you've had a lot of changes since we last spoke.
I have.
And we're going to talk about all that. So let me bring everyone, including myself, up to speed.
Okay.
So the last time we talked, you were working for All Better Together,
yes,
California-based company.
Yep.
And you were working here remotely for the most part.
Yeah.
Then, shortly after that episode aired, you went to work for Northeast Indiana Regional Partnership.
Yep.
And now you're working for a company called Plug and Play. Did I have all that right?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me a little bit. I want to hear more about how all that happened. But to kick us off, tell us a little bit about Plug and Play.
Yes.
What is that entity and what's your role with Plug and Play?
So Plug and Play is headquartered out in Silicon Valley in California.
Yep.
And basically, it is trying to create innovation and entrepreneurial ecosystems around the world. Okay. So what that means, those big buzzwords that we all use,
I knew what that meant. Yeah.
Is we are accelerator programs for startups in industry-specific areas. Okay. We are a venture capital firm that invests in startups. Yep. And then also we work in corporate innovation, so bringing together corporate needs with startup solutions and kind of, helping there be some collisions and connections there that might not have existed otherwise. So that's kind of Plug and Play corporate. Here in Indiana, we just launched our first location in Warsaw, Indiana, the orthopedic capital of the world. Okay. It's a medical technology focus. So all of the startups coming through there have some kind of innovation or solution that's in medical technology. Our site is working with Zimmer Biomet as our anchor partner, Paragon Medical, and Orthopediatrics. So in my role, I'm the program manager. So I'm getting to work directly with the startups who are coming to us from all around the world. Yep. Get to work with them to learn their needs, their goals, their challenges, where they're at with their product. Also work directly with our corporate partners, find out the same thing, and then put together a program that is uniquely built for each of those startups and making introductions to strategic partners or mentors, bringing folks in to do workshops on medtech specific content or just startup content about business or seeking investment, that kind of thing. Okay. But really trying to be the source of connection within what is now our little medtech community. Okay. So how did Warsaw get selected? Obviously, there's a lot of great things happen in Warsaw, but there's bigger cities, Indianapolis, Fort Wayne. Right. Why did Plug and Play decide to focus on Warsaw? So this is kind of how the Northeast Indiana Regional Partnership plays into this career path for me. Okay, all right. So when I was on the business development team still at NEI, our team was working on attracting Plug and Play to Northeast Indiana. Okay. So Brandon Knoll, who was formerly with NEI and now the director of Plug and Play Indiana, he became acquainted with Plug and Play at a trade show or conference and was hearing them talk about their kind of strategic growth initiative to grow in the United States. And, we're looking at secondary markets. And Brandon approached the speaker about, hey, you really need to come and look at Northeast Indiana. And they're like, no, thanks. We're looking at like Austin, but thanks. Yeah. And he's like, no, give me 5 minutes to tell you about Northeast Indiana, Fort Wayne, Warsaw, and just give me 5 minutes. Yeah. And so from there was enough interest in, all that we've got going on here in terms of corporations that are headquartered here, the business environment that's here, state level individuals. Governor Holcomb was so instrumental in, voicing support for this project.
Yeah.
So the Plug and Play team came to Indiana a couple of times to visit. And so how we get to Warsaw then is, with that being the orthopedic capital of the world, Zimmer Biomet is headquartered there. And there's a hugely robust industry that's built up around that, both in medical device and...
So that would be suppliers and other related companies.
Suppliers, packaging, the whole start to finish. So kind of a perfect timing for this conversation to take place because, the community in Warsaw and Kosciuszko County, they want that industry to remain really robust and rich.
For sure.
And so always looking for opportunities to kind of grow. We're not just knees and hips, although that's an important part of what's going on there.
Yeah.
But growing into more of the medical technology side of it so that this can be a really diverse economy within orthopedics in Warsaw.
Okay. So is your role focused fully on Indiana, or are you working with communities around the country?
So my role is largely Indiana. My startups are coming from all around the world. So I have that kind of exposure beyond Indiana.
Sure.
But what I'm really excited about beyond what we're doing in Warsaw is we are Plug and Play Indiana. So our team of 3 right now is working toward another 3 or 4 locations in the state that we will be in other industries that make sense based on proximity.
Yeah, and you probably can't talk about what those are.
No.
So, all right, I won't ask them. Okay, yeah.
So it's exciting, to be here at the beginning of this thing. And I feel really fortunate that when I was at NEI, I could learn about Plug and Play and how it can positively benefit the state, the community from an economic development standpoint, and all the positives that could come from this. And so now, in my new role, I'm getting to be actively part of that, and I feel like the impact I'm going to be able to have on Indiana is really, really potentially so significant.
Yeah, for sure. So I'd like to hear a little bit about for you personally, because back when you were last on the podcast, in my mind, and I'm sure the mind of others, it was like, okay, Eileen is a nonprofit person. She's worked in nonprofit. She knows a lot about the nonprofit world. And now it's like, wait a minute, she's becoming this entrepreneurship, innovation, startup person. How do you explain that journey, if you will?
Yeah. I think that really Eileen is a people person.
Yeah.
And I know we talked about that a lot on the podcast.
I said this before we hit record, but it took quite an effort to get you into this room because you said hi to about 19 people at Asher that you know from different walks of life.
Yes. So, yeah. So, if I think about Eileen as a relationship person, that really is what my career has been about. So in my role right now, it is so rewarding for me because I'm directly working with one founder of one company and hearing about, what's driving them, what problems have they encountered, what are they excited about, and how I can be a help and a support to them and then go make those things happen for them. So I'm never going to be a founder. I don't have that personality.
Sure.
I'm so glad that there are people that are that. We need them.
Yeah.
But, for me to be able to be a source of support and help to somebody, that really, really rewards me. So I feel like it's less about, Eileen moved from nonprofits to now she's like, in the tech industry or something. But it's more like Eileen's just finding where she is meant to be right now when it comes to relationships and managing those.
Okay. And how did you get connected to the Plug and Play folks? How did it turn out that you ended up working for this entity that isn't based here?
Yeah. So, when they launched and it was officially happening, which was January of this year, I knew that there was going to be this program manager role that would come along the lines eventually. And, just something that really, it felt like it spoke to all the things that are my things, a nice balance of taking care of people, getting to know what they need, and then also some organizational stuff underneath of it. And it just felt like, again, like I said, the impact that I can have on Indiana, on Northeast Indiana through this role, I feel was something I just had to explore.
So how much, if at all, are you working on marketing stuff, communication stuff? Is that a big piece of the role, or do you have other people who handle that for you?
A little bit of both. So luckily, because we are part of this larger corporate structure, I mean, we've got, I think, 800 employees around the world. There is a significant, marketing team that's there to support us with assets. But also, as with any, we ourselves are kind of a startup. So we're kind of building a lot of community relationships in Warsaw, Northeast Indiana, and the state. And so along with that does come a fair amount of communications work, so to speak, and some marketing work. But I think mostly it's just kind of trying to keep people aware of what we're doing, especially when it's something new. I think it can be hard. We kept hearing from the community, like, we're excited, I guess, about Plug and Play, but we don't really know what we're excited about.
We're excited, but we don't know why.
Right. And so, people want to know what's going on. They want to see what's going on. They want to hear about it. They don't want to go, 12 months, like, I don't know if that's even happening anymore. So I think for us, this is like the most long-winded answer to your question, but I'm trying, and the rest of my team, we're all trying to be active on our LinkedIn and have community events that are kind of a nice way to just share what we're doing and just keeping in touch.
Yeah, well, I think you're doing a good job of that, because it definitely got my attention. I was like,
everybody's sick of me.
This is no, that's actually that is a good position to have when people are, when they've heard enough of you, then they've heard enough of you. So that's good. But no, not that at all. It was more like, okay, this is interesting. I don't quite understand it.
Yeah.
And my sneaky way of understanding it better is inviting you on the podcast and trying to learn about it.
Yeah.
So tell me, as you look ahead, I know there are proprietary things you can't share, but what are some of the things you're going to be focused on in the next 6 to 12 months?
In the next 6 to 12 months, most immediate is my second cohort of startups are going to be starting their program in the next couple of weeks. So, that's my most front of mind thing, is getting everything prepared for them. And let me tell you what almost a luxury it feels like to be able to plan ahead for that.
For sure.
We just started in March with our first group. And so it was very, we did have an airplane we were flying in, but we were kind of like building the seats while we were in it, I guess, so to speak.
It was fully operational.
It was fully operational.
It was safe, but it wasn't real comfortable.
Right, there we go, Okay. So that's my most immediate thing. But really, growth-wise in Indiana, I mean, in the next 6 to 12 months, we ought to have another couple locations that have launched, what will come along with that is, some significant launch events for each one, community building, because we'll be new in those communities, having accelerator programs, build up a program, get some startups in there in those industries. So kind of the work that we've been doing the last 6 months, we don't want to lose that momentum in Warsaw. So continuing to grow and learn from that, but then also kind of take those lessons learned and those processes and implement in other communities in the state.
So is Indiana, in comparison to other states, is it ahead of the curve in that Plug and Play is making inroads here and has plans, or are other states ahead of Indiana? I would assume that California, well established. Where is Indiana on the continuum? Is it one of the first states where this is rolling out, or is it one of the latter states?
It's very interesting, because for a long time, Plug and Play's strategy was to keep its North America presence pretty much just in Silicon Valley. Okay. They would grow around the world, but they didn't want to cannibalize their programs. So it's only been in recent years that they've started to have these satellite locations throughout the United States. So Texas has several locations, but I think it's difficult to say, we're doing better than anybody else. But I think something that is special about Indiana and sets us apart, really, I mean, everybody blabs about it that's in economic development, but our state really is a great state to do business in and is super proactive about having a climate where it makes sense for you to start or grow your business in Indiana. And so I think all that goes along with that, as well as being in a kind of an environment right now where an innovation culture and entrepreneurship culture is something we're talking a lot about. And I feel like now more than any time in my life in Indiana, we're ready for it. More people understand why we need these kinds of things. And so I think to me, it's a feeling of Indiana, just like we're at this ripe moment and things are coming together in a really nice way.
Yeah, because this has been years in the making, right?
Yeah,
it's not like Indiana flipped a switch in 2019 and said, we want to be known for being a good place to start a business. That's been going on. I mean, I dabbled in economic development a million years ago, very much in like an administrative role. And some of the things that are coming to fruition now were being discussed then. So it's a lot of people have worked hard to position the state in that way.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that I most what's the right word? We'll say enjoyed. Most enjoyed in my role at NEI. I mean, I think all that goes into economic development, you don't really know until you have a reason to know it. And that very thing, things that like we don't realize how many people and organizations and entities it takes for any one business to come together and show up on Main Street. And that it's months and years of work before we can have one of those things, and it's remarkable. Really.
Well, and there was a time when it was happening in Indianapolis, but it didn't feel like it was happening here. And now with the investments that Plug and Play is making in Warsaw, you've seen Google in Fort Wayne, and there's a million other examples. It's like, this does directly affect all parts of the state. So this has been for you kind of a reinvention. Is that fair to say? Does it feel like that for you personally?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Well, from the outside, from the outside, if you want it to look like a reinvention, you could say that.
Oh no. I think it just feels like it's me. I'm just what is that thing? I'm becoming. That's what it is.
Okay.
I'm becoming.
Okay.
I don't know. I think it's probably as I'm getting older, but not old. As I'm getting older, maybe being better at identifying and claiming what my strengths are and leaning into those and finding roles where I can do that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great position to be in.
We'll say that's what it is.
Okay. All right. Well, now it's on the record, so it must be true.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, thanks for doing this. This was fun to catch up.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Asher Marketing Podcast. The Asher Marketing Podcast is a production of Asher Agency, a full-service agency for franchises and co-ops, colleges and universities, financial service companies, healthcare organizations, and government agencies. We'll be back next time with another great guest, and we hope you'll join us then.